But I kind of learned the hard way from this that establish boundaries, do it up front, structure your business in a way that this doesn't happen. But yeah, there are times you have to fire a client. It just isn't working out.
Yeah, so what we want to get into today is a kind of like a four-part process, mini process, where, the first one is, you might have a really good paying client, but it's bad for you. Bad for you mentally, bad for
Hmm.
you time-wise, just bad for you.
I'm Larry Cornett, and this is Invincible Solopreneurs. Hey, Anna. Good to be back
Hi.
together. It's been a little while.
Yes, it has been. How's it going? How are you?
I'm surviving in the fall of America, and you survived the volcano. So hey, we're still alive for
Yeah, the
now.
volcano is still a little cutesy little thing over here. So, I feel like yours is a little more severe though. So
You think? I'm waiting for
I'm
the
just,
knock on my door.
yeah,
"You've been saying really bad things on social media. We'd like to talk to you." It's like, "Yeah, waiting
yeah.
for
Yeah, we just have potential fiberglass in our lungs. Nothing too bad.
that." Uh, yeah. So we're both on borrowed time. Yeah, fantastic. I love it. And when
Well,
life is, short, there's some things that aren't worth putting up with, right? That's what
mhm.
we're gonna talk about today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Larry and I were talking about some bad clients, and a client of mine was actually kind of in a panic because he had a few clients of his that was taking too much of his time, and we sat down and we
Mhm.
calculated that, like, if he were to fulfill on everything he, quote, unquote, "promised" time-wise, it was a 120 something work week.
Oh,
So, it
wow.
wasn't, fruitful. No wonder he was burned out and stressed and, didn't seem to have any time in the day for basic stuff like eating, and, yeah, no wonder. It happens. Um, but he put himself in that situation because he felt like he needed all of them, he didn't
Right.
think
Yeah.
that, you know, the money situation, the work, the availability, the lack of availability, the uncertainty in the market, he was kind of overcommitting, and of course, it's burning him out. It's not making him show up to the best, and it's his quality of work is suffering. So that's kind of what we want to talk about today. But I know Larry has probably a story or two about a bad
Yeah.
client, and yeah, that's what we're getting into.
Yeah. Yeah, I got into probably a similar situation when I first started my coaching business. It was like, yeah, 9 years ago. It's been a while. Um, and doing a coaching business was kinda new to me. I'd done other kinds of businesses, but not this. And naively, I set up like, "Hey, I'm gonna set up a Slack," I think at the time, and, "Message me anytime. I'll respond anytime, and we'll have calls, and we'll have this and that." And, by and large, most people, I think, kind of respected boundaries and would not kind of abuse it. But I had a client that was, like, constantly messaging me. And I was like, unlimited messaging quickly turned into what you were describing for your friend, which is like, okay, how many hours am I working a week? And I'm clearly not billing correctly if I'm on this chat with this person pretty much all day. And I think it came to a head. I remember I was sitting on the couch with my wife, I think, or kids, watching something on Netflix. It was like 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday, and this person was texting me. They had my phone number,
Oh,
and they
no.
were upset that I wasn't responding. They said, "I expect you to respond when I text you." And I was like, "Okay, this is it. I'm gonna have to, like, fire this client. I'm gonna have to set
Yeah,
boundaries. I cannot have people text me 10 o'clock on a Saturday night and getting angry that I'm not responding." I was like, "Clearly, I haven't been good about setting boundaries." So
yeah.
it's kinda like what Anna was saying. I think if you let yourself get into a situation where you feel like you don't have options, you put up with a lot of garbage, and mistreatment. But I kinda learned the hard way from this that establish boundaries, do it up front, structure your business in a way that this doesn't happen. But yeah, there are times you have to fire a client. It just isn't working out.
Yeah, so what we wanna get into today is a kind of like a four-part process, mini process where, the first one is, you might have a really good paying client, but it's bad for you. Bad for you mentally, bad for
Mhm.
you time-wise, just bad for you. And you might not notice the subtle signs because I think as people, we have the ability to, when pressure is put on us, we have a great ability to be very resistant. And then we kind of overcome
Yeah.
that resistance and then it absorbs into our psyche, I guess. And then we take it as a status quo thing. Like
Right.
a
Yeah.
difficult client just becomes status quo, like, oh,
Yeah.
on Fridays during
This is
billing
how it
time,
goes.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is just how it is. And then we like to calculate kind of like the emotional cost as well as the
Mhm.
opportunity cost of a bad client, even if they pay really well. And then
Yeah.
3, we actually, Larry has developed a fun little scorecard to help you,
Yeah.
figure out whether you should or should not keep the client. And then finally, we have kind of like practical tips on how to fire the client professionally while you can still keep the hopefully not burn a bridge, right? Because you never know, they might
Sure.
know
Yeah.
somebody who can recommend you, refer you. So we always want to try our best to keep those bridges open. So I guess like the first thing is something that freelancers don't really talk enough about, which is
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
every client is worth keeping. So
Mhm. I think unfortunately people get into the habit of all money is good money and more money is good. It's like, I just want more and all money is good money. And we let ourselves get into the situation where, hey, as long as I'm getting paid, I can put up with it. And some of that
yeah,
may even come from our life when we were employees, which you do have that. You're working for someone else and you don't get to call the shots. And so they're like, nope, you're going to do this. You're going to
yeah,
do that. And you're going to suck it up because I'm writing your check. So you have to put up with it. And it's one of the biggest benefits of being an entrepreneur or solopreneur is you can choose your clients. You can't choose
yeah,
your boss when you're an employee, but you can choose your clients and you can fire a client. And it's okay. It's okay to get rid of somebody that's actually more trouble than they're worth. It's kinda like the ROI thing, which we talk about with a lot of stuff. It's like, are you making enough money to be worth the misery of what you're going through with this client?
yeah.
And
The
it's,
money isn't
sometimes you're
always
not.
worth yeah. The money isn't always worth the misery. So,
No, not at all. And,
oh no, I
yeah,
got I
whoop.
got cut
Uh-oh, I
off.
think I
Hello.
lost Anna. I'll keep talking. Oop, she's
Hi.
back. That was
Just
fast.
just a little blip in Costa Rica internet here. So
But it was pretty
and
fast
it
coming
and it
back.
cut me off on my little punchline too.
I know
How
you were saying something funny, I'm
inconsiderate.
sure.
And I was just about to say, like, money isn't always worth the misery, right? And sometimes
Ooh,
we
yeah.
can detect when there will be misery, so we can overprice for the misery, right? But there does come a point in time, especially if you're in your career, where you don't actually even have to even do that anymore, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think from what I've noticed with my clients is that they put up with a lot of bad clients, even if they're well seasoned into their career, because they've come from maybe um, a family or a situation where opportunities were not as abundant as it
Sure,
is now.
yeah.
So it's completely okay if you've had like a very pain in the ass type client and you've had them for maybe 5, 6, 7 years, completely okay. But here's the conversation that we're having now where it's like, all right, let's do a kind of a little revamp and see if that is worth
Mhm.
it. Can we take time to replace that client, even if it's slightly less money, slightly more money? Um, but less work, there's ways to play
Right,
with it,
yeah,
especially if you own your own business.
yeah. Yeah, and I think Anna kinda captured some of the cost. It's like, you may not be thinking about these costs. You're just like, "Oh, I'm vaguely irritated," or "This person's a pain," but you're not really thinking about how that ripple effect goes into your life and your other clients and growing your business, and there's she calls the emotional tax, which is right before you have a call with that client, you're feeling dread. You have that knot in your stomach. You're like, "Okay, what's it gonna be today?" Or there's stuff you need to do and you're kinda putting it off and you're procrastinating because you're just dreading it. You're dreading it.
Yeah.
And the energy, right? You're losing so much emotional energy because you get off the call and you feel drained. And you're complaining to your partner or your friends or whoever saying, "Oh, this person's killing me." It's like, "Oh my gosh." And yeah, every time it comes up on your calendar, you're like, "Oh no, here we go. Here we go." So
Yeah,
painful.
exactly. So I was working with a client that His business was very interesting. He was working with, like, people with high autism and
Mm.
people who were, um, like, mentally what would you call it? Like, mentally challenged
Oh,
and,
like me. Okay. Got it.
Larry.
Pretty much. Pretty much. I'm seeing the picture. I'm looking in the screen right now on my camera. I was like, "Yep, okay. I recognize who you're
Yeah.
talking about."
But he was working with, like, really severe individuals where, like, if you're not on time or if the nurses aren't on time to take care of them, they literally will destroy the rooms, you know what I mean? So
Sure, sure.
he had to be very, very particular in his systems and processes to make sure, because, like, he's having a the client himself is a very difficult client because they
Yeah.
perhaps don't understand what's happening, you can't, like, communicate to them. So he has to have staff that are very supportive and able to handle the situation. So he told me a very interesting kind of like puzzle where he said that if you were faced with two employees, right? One employee is super quick. Turnaround time, maybe 48 hours, 24 hours, depending on the task, but they get it wrong about 40% of the time. So they get it right
Mhm.
60% of the time, but 40% of the time it's just wrong. You have to redo it or you have to make them
Yeah.
redo it, right? Well, versus a second employee, where she might be a little bit older, she might be a little bit like slower in how she processes things, but she has like a 98% accuracy
Mhm,
in how
mhm.
she gets things done. But it takes like 2 weeks for her to do the turnaround time, which is just like too slow for the moving world and what they had to get going, right? He asked me the question like, of the two, you need to keep one. Which one would you keep? Do you
Yeah.
have an answer, Larry?
I know which one I'd keep, but I'm biased. Like, I hate redoing people's work, so I would definitely keep the one that was more accurate. Yes,
Well,
like
even if it was slow.
yeah, I'd rather have it good and slow than fast and sloppy. That didn't sound
See,
good, does
I
it?
said the same thing.
Jeez.
I said the same thing, and he was like, "No, wrong. You fired them both."
Oh, nice. Ruthless. That's fantastic. See, this
And
is
I
why I'm
was
not a billionaire. I'm not
yeah.
ruthless enough.
I know, but he was like, "Because they both don't serve the purpose of what you need them to do, right? And, like,
Sure.
they
Yeah,
might be
yeah.
very good, but maybe we can move them into a different department or something, but in the situation at hand, they are both going to be detrimental to the business and to your
Yeah,
overall
yeah.
well-being," right? So the point of that story is that sometimes you might have 2 clients that are, like, they have their pros and cons, of why they're great and why they're bad. But sometimes the answer is that you need to actually just fire both, right? To get
Just fire everybody.
well, I don't know about everybody,
Oh, did I go
but it
too
gives
far?
you I think it's more of like a mental,
Shoot.
"Oh,
Now I'm
no, I've
behaving like
been
the
cut
US
off
government. I'm
again."
sorry. I'm sorry. Looks like Anna has frozen. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. No, but I hear what she's saying. And it's
Hi.
oh, there she is. She's back.
It gives you a mental kind of playground to
Oh,
really
yeah.
think. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
I swear, it's not today's not the day apparently. Um, But, yeah, that question kinda gives you a mental playground of, like,
Yeah, I like it.
thinking outside of the box a little, like, we don't have to do an either/or situation. It might just be a situation where you fire both clients, or it might be a situation where you fire one, replace it with another, and then identify that the other one is
Right.
still
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
even though they're slower and 90% accurate, they still need to
Even though they're slower, Anna's being really slow right now. Look at that. She's frozen. Is she gonna come back? Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and, move on. Yeah, the second thing, which I think is interesting, we often don't think about is the opportunity cost. That I remember early this was a different business I was running. This was when I was doing my design agency, kinda my first business, and I had a client that was kind of a pain, and I had just gotten started, so I was not billing at my highest rate yet. I was, like, kind of finding my way. So I was
yeah,
locked in with this client, and they were a pain in the butt. They weren't paying me that well, and as I was talking to new clients, which you should always be doing, it was clear I could be making a lot more money, and I was
yep,
like, "How do I get rid of this client?" And then luckily, an opportunity came up where it was like we kinda wrapped up the project, and we were done, and I started working with a new client, and then that first client came back to me. They're like, "Oh, we wanna work on another project with you." I'm like, I was like, "Well, my rates have gone up." And I said so
Mhm.
I thought I did what was insane. I doubled my rates, and I said, "They're now this much." I doubled my rates. And they're like, "Fine, let's do it." I'm like, "Oh, what have I done?" I was like, so I made a lot better money, but I was now working with a paying client again. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, even doubling your rates cannot be enough to make you feel like working with that client. So it does. It blocks you from better opportunities. It's like every time you're afraid to lose a bad client because, oh, what about the money? Well, what if you could land a client who's actually a dream to work with and makes you even more money? But you're not doing it
yeah.
because you're stuck. You're stuck with this other client.
I think people are also motivated by different things. Like, some people are motivated
Sure.
by money, but some people are motivated by just time freedom. Other people are
Yeah.
motivated just by the ability to, what's another motivation? I
Like
just
work on
lost
cool
my
stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like other
Yeah.
projects that they wanna work on. So it
Sure.
depends
Yeah.
on where you are, like, where you are emotionally. Like, is the double paying client gonna be worth it for you as a money motivated individual? Perhaps. But for a lot of other people, especially I think for entrepreneurs or solopreneurs or people who've gone to
Mhm.
business, like, time freedom is probably the most,
Yeah. Yeah.
value or uh,
Yeah.
important
I
thing that
agree.
we have,
I
right?
agree.
So,
Yeah, and there is an opportunity, I think, to align yourself with the right kind of people. Um, the other thing that happens, and this is kind of the final hidden cost, is just that energy drain that comes when you're working with somebody like that. Because
yeah,
running a business, you've got energy you have to devote to your clients. You got energy you have to put into your marketing and your business and planning and all the stuff you have to do with strategy. And when you're drained by spending too much time or your time gets fragmented working with these people. And that I think that's what I kind of discovered is I was trying to focus on other stuff. And I was getting bing, 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 like these
yeah,
texts every 15 minutes. I'm like, I can't even focus to get stuff done.
yeah.
And just that hidden cost was really slowing down my growth and my well-being. It was really hurting my well-being. So it's like sometimes it's time to let go.
Yeah, so we came up with, like, kind of a three-part indicator or framework to trying
Hmm.
to distinguish whether the client you have in your life right now is not as fruitful as you might think, or the slow frog in the boiling water kind of situation. It
Yeah.
feels great in the moment, but then it's a year in and you're kind of not feeling too great, and your bones are getting
The water's bubbling.
boiled.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, the first one is values misalignment. So what is that?
Mm,
They talk to you like an employee. They don't talk to you like a consultant or a business
right,
partner
yeah.
or a collaborator in this situation. You are one of their many pawns to the system, right? That's probably
Yeah,
not
yeah,
the best feeling. That right there is a very obvious values misalignment. I think another one is, when they pay late, they're just not a good client in general. They pay
yeah. You
late.
have to
They
keep
push.
begging them. It's like, "Where's the payment?" Yeah.
Mhm. Or they push the scope of the work,
Mhm,
they push
mhm.
the deadlines, um, they change the scope of the work, and you might have to, charge them new fees or whatever, and then they bark at those.
Yeah,
So, these are
yeah.
all indicators that the client is not as easygoing, easy peasy going as you'd like, right? Is there another values misalignment, Larry, that you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you brought up the one they treat you like an employee because I think clients, especially corporate clients, slip into this because that's how they're
Mhm.
used to working with people.
Yeah.
And so they do little things that over time, and it can start early, it can kind of creep in. I remember there was a great story this guy he shared. I don't remember where he shared on Substack or somewhere. And I think he was an engineer. And so the client said, "Hey, you need to come to this stand-up meeting and you need to come to this all hands." And I remember being invited to like barbecues and stuff. I'm like, not getting paid. I'm like, I'm not your employee. I'm not going to come
Yeah.
to a 4-hour barbecue. You're not my friends and I'm not getting
Yeah.
paid. So I'm not going to do that. And he said, "No, I'm not going to do that. I just code. I code. I push the code. I put it on, wherever they were sharing it, GitHub." He's like, "I don't go to these stand-up meetings." And he's like, "You better come to them, or you're going to be fired." And he said, "Oh, you might want to read our contract." He said, "You didn't read it, did you?" And he copied and pasted. It said, "Yeah, if you fire me, terminate me for without cause because I'm doing this, I get 3 months of finishing out the contract. You pay me." And read this. I don't come to those meetings. That was in the contract you signed. You really should look at stuff you signed. And the
Oh,
guy
it's so
was like
nice that he put that in.
furious. That's one way you can control that, right? Like, yeah, I learned you got to set boundaries. You got to be clear. I do this. I don't do this. Because they do. It creeps in where they start treating you like an employee, and it can be
Yeah,
fun. Like, oh, thanks for inviting me to the barbecue, but I don't have to. And they shouldn't get upset when you're like, I'm not coming to that. It's like, yeah, I'm not your employee. So
yeah.
yeah, it can happen. It can happen.
The second thing that is an indicator that this client is no longer serving you is that they're draining your energy, which in turn is affecting your revenue growth or
Mhm.
your outreach strategies. So, this is you avoid their work, which means that you push it
Sure.
off
Yeah.
to the last minute, and then suddenly at 2 in the morning, you're panic coding or you're panic designing or you're panic whatever to get the project out of the way. You feel anxious whenever they message you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Remember, it's two-way street here. We need to feel
Yeah.
good about the collaborations we're doing with our clients. If we start feeling these ways, there's, I mean, it might just be like deadline jitters because sometimes you're both working on big, big projects and you're
Sure.
not sure
That's
how it's
different.
going to
Yeah.
end. That's completely different, right? I'm not saying the moment you feel anxiety, you start like shooting off the guns,
Yeah.
right? So it's condition specific. And
Yeah.
then third is that you cannot recharge over the weekend or you can't recharge after
Right.
hours because
Yeah.
you're thinking of this client and all its glory and all their uh,
Mhm.
flaws, right?
Or they're messaging you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. God, I had a client. It was a pretty early client too, and I remember like I had been working on something for them, had a deliverable, and I delivered it, and this person came back said, "Oh, can you change this? I don't like this." That's okay, whatever. And so I changed it and sent it to them, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know. Can you change this?" And so it was like these change requests, and this is when you learn to set limits on change requests. And so it went through, and I'm not kidding, the 10 revisions. So 10
Yeah.
revisions, and I remember the 10th revision that he requested, this person. And I said, "Okay." And I literally pulled up the very first thing I'd sent them, version 1.0, because I had version numbers. And I said, "Like this?" He said, "Yeah, that'd be great. That's perfect." And I said, "Look at the version number on that." And he's
Yeah.
like, "Did I really just do that to you?" And I said, "Yes, you did." And he said, "Oh, he actually apologized. He said, 'I'm sorry.'" And I said, "It's okay. You're paying me, but still, it's like we
Yeah.
kind of just went full circle." It's like, wow,
Yeah.
man, not efficient.
Yeah, that, like, brings into the system or the third step here, which is, are they limiting your growth, right?
Yeah.
You're afraid to
Mhm.
raise your prices because you've had this client barking at every step in the turn of
Right.
whenever you
Yeah.
try to
Yeah.
bill them accordingly. They clog your schedule so that you don't feel like you have time to find new clients to replace them. It's kind of like
Oh, yeah.
the
You're stuck.
what
Hamster
chicken
wheel.
and the egg
Mm.
situation,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, that too.
The hamster
Hamsters,
wheel, folks, too.
snakes, chickens. I like all kinds of farm animals. Yeah.
Can you tell I live in the jungle? I really like my egg examples. I think I
Your egg's a
overdo
good
the
one. I like
eggs.
that. Yeah.
And then you stop evolving because you don't have time to maybe listen to podcasts about industry stuff
Sure.
that's happening
Yeah.
or YouTube videos or whatever to try and like make yourself competitive because you have a client that is taking up all this emotional growth that can happen.
Right.
So
Yeah.
these are not money like cash in cash out indicators. These are emotional indicators that a lot of
Mhm.
my burnout clients, we work with because they don't see that. They just see what's on the budget and they see that they're making so
Right.
much money, but they don't understand why they feel so terrible with the money that's coming with it, right? So we have to take a step back and really look at holistically at
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
everything that's affecting our mental health and well-being.
I mean, I think, and I was just talking with somebody about it about an hour ago, why it's so important to kind of structure your business. And I always tell people, it's like, if you own your calendar, you own your time
Mhm.
and you decide how you spend it. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that early business owners make is they just assume I'll work 100% of my business generating revenue and I'm going to do this and that. And I'm like, okay, when are you going to work on your business strategy?
Yeah.
When are you going to do your accounting? When are you going to do whatever, like you said, do research and keep up to date on stuff? When's that going to happen? They're like, oh, nights, weekends, and like, okay, now you're working 14-hour days. So one of the best things you can do for yourself is structure your week so that you dedicate time, whether it's a half day or a full day. I try to do day theme and do full days,
Yeah,
that
me
you
too.
can do things to work on your business instead of constantly churning for clients, because you got to do that. You got to work on your business too.
Yeah, for sure. Um, the that's the three-part kind of indicators. We'll get into, like, when it's actually turned into red flags, in a little bit, but the importance here is that when it's in these indicators, there might be conversation with the client for room to improve, or you can, like, talk to the client about how set boundaries, set standards, maybe say, "Hey, we're changing our policy." Like, it doesn't necessarily need to be like, "Okay, we need to pull the ripcord and fire them right away." Like,
Yeah,
there might be still be room to
you could
negotiate or
work stuff out.
collaborate.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But if that doesn't work, then we do have, like, a red flag list of, like, okay, this needs to fire them. But I wanna get into the I called it the pain in the ass, index scorecard that Larry
yeah,
created.
yeah.
Larry, I'll let you take it since you're the one that created it.
Yeah, it's a useful way to get out of your kind of your emotions and the chaos and be more objective. Because I think I do this even with my clients that are employees and work in companies, is trying to be more objective. Because we get emotional, we make decisions that are emotional, and sometimes that's okay, but sometimes it's not the right thing to do. And so this tries to help you be a little rational about it. So we have different criteria that you can rate, and the scale is kind of like 1 to 10. So 1 would be, this is an ideal client. This person's perfect. I love working with them. They do this thing really well, or they're not toxic. All the way up to 10, which is, man, this is a deal breaker. They're horrible. This is terrible. And so for each one of these, you can either give it a score 1, which is like they're a dream client, or 10, this is a nightmare client, or maybe somewhere in between, right? And then at the end, you can kind of total it up and see where you stand. So one of the first criteria is around kind of the respect that they have for you and their behavior. Are they being respectful? Are they professional? Do you have a good, like Anna was talking about, a good collaborative relationship? You're talking, you're working through things, or are they rude to you? Are they controlling? Are they belittling? Are they very negative? Are they toxic? Are they screaming and yelling at you? So, yeah, it's a score of 10 if they're screaming and yelling at you and they're toxic. Like, this is terrible. Or
For sure.
a 1, it's a dream client. You love working with them. They treat you really well. So then 2 is around the boundaries. So we just talked about this kind of the boundary violations. So if you set boundaries around working hours, the way you communicate with them, the channels, the contracts that you have, like when do I get payment? How do you make requests for changes? All that kind of stuff. And if by and large they're respecting that, they know it's like, okay, this is your working hours. I'm not going to message you afterwards. I'm not going to text your private phone if I found your phone number, which is like, this is why I don't like
I
to give out
know.
my phone number. But
I
yeah, it's
know.
like, don't do that. Don't do that. And they pay on time, right? Great. Then they're a dream client, give them a 1 or 2, whatever, right? But if they're harassing you outside of working hours constantly, which happens, if they're, "Oh, I'm sorry, I had somebody do this. Oh, I know I shouldn't do this, but I found your private number and I'm texting you." And I was like, "Why are you texting me my private number?" It's like, "Come on, don't do that."
Ugh,
And I was out with my wife on a date, and I said, "I'm on a date with my wife right now." And they're like, "Well, can you just answer this question real quick?" I'm like,
no.
"I'm gonna have to fire you." It's like this is showing a huge lack of respect for my
That's
boundaries, right?
crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And I'm sure you've experienced some of this too. I mean, we all have if we do work like
Well,
this.
yeah, my phone number is pretty private, so, more difficult to
Wow,
find.
good for you. Who can call
Yeah,
Costa Rica anyway, right?
yeah, I
That's
know.
almost
No,
impossible.
no. I do have a business line, but of course it's a business line, so it gets turned off after certain hours, right? The benefits of a business line. And that's a US number, but yeah, for my personal line, no, nobody knows what that is, so
Shoot, I don't think I know it. What the heck? We've been friends for like 30 years and you don't. Wow. Oh, wait,
Sorry,
Anna's not
Larry.
even thir Anna's not even 30 years old, so that's impossible.
VIPs only, Larry.
I see how it is. Alright then. Got it.
Well, we actually have or you developed the full list. I'm sure you can publish it, on Substack when this episode gets
Yeah, I
pushed.
will. I will. I think it's a good framework and you guys can borrow it. So, yeah, go to
Yeah.
Substack. We'll publish this as a newsletter and a podcast episode. And you can copy this framework and paste it and use it yourself and kind of go through and score everything. And I think it even has like a gut check at the end where you can do a bonus round where if you think about this client, a good question that you can ask yourself. If you stop working with this client, you're done. You're like, okay, how do you feel when you stop working with them? And then how do you feel if they messaged you and said, hey, I want to work with you again. I have a new project. What is your instant reaction to that? Do you feel like,
Yeah.
oh, cool, okay? Or do you feel like, oh, God, no, I can't do this again? Well, at a point, if your reaction immediately is like, "Ugh, I feel sick to my stomach. This is not going to be good."
Yeah, so hopefully after that gut check, you know, you wanna see where you can maybe improve the client relationship. Hopefully, it's not super toxic to the
Sure.
point where
Yeah.
they're screaming at you, but, within reason, like, if you don't like certain things, maybe you can say, "Hey, our policies are changing," or, sit down with a meeting and be like, "Okay, we're at the year mark, we're at this 3-month mark," or whatever it is, and, like, "This is
Right. Yeah.
how, I envision us in the future," right? And see if you can collaborate and try to change some of these behaviors. If you cannot change these behaviors, then the red flags I think are pretty straightforward. Is one, you have to keep explaining your boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Like the whole getting your phone number thing. I mean, I think that's right
Right.
there. It's just
Right.
like a
Yeah.
immediate fire. You fantasize about them disappearing, right? Oh my god, how many times have I sat there daydreaming about my client not being my client?
Yeah. It's pretty bad when you're like, if they never called me again, I'd be okay with that. Yeah.
You vent with your friends about them
Yeah.
weekly,
Yeah.
which is also not great. Like, your friends have now become, the therapist in
And they're
the
tired of hearing
friendship.
it. They're like, "Can we talk about
Mhm.
something else?" Yeah.
You dread every meeting, and, I guess through this exercise, you'll realize, if they're
Mhm.
costing you more than what they're paying you.
Right.
So,
Right.
there's that.
Yeah. Kind of the full cost. Yeah. And so if you do get to that point where it's like these red flags are triggered, I need to move on. It's like there you can be professional. Like Anna said, don't burn bridges
Yeah.
because this happens. I've had people that were really a pain and I thought that they didn't like working with me because they were so irritated and angry all the time. But then later they're referring people to me. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
he's great. I love him. It's like, okay, maybe that's just their personality. So
Yeah.
don't burn bridges because it could be good for your business. But be professional, give some written notice saying, okay, we're going to wrap things up. Here's the final date. Let's finish up the project. Here are the things you need, the assets, whatever it might be. And just be like, yeah, it's kind of time to wrap things up and close the deal and be done with it. Um, yeah, you
Yeah,
can
I do
say
like the
we're shifting
line.
directions. I like that.
Yeah, I do like the line, "My business is shifting directions." So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, we're focusing on XYZ or
Hmm.
whatever it might be, especially if it's a long-standing client. There are ways to end the relationship where you can say, "Hey, like, I'm open to referrals. I'll give you a referral fee." These are things
Sure.
that can
Yeah.
keep the door open. And there's no reason to like I know some of my clients can be a bit of people pleasers or they feel super guilty.
Mm-hmm.
They feel super guilty letting go of things, even if it's beneficial to them. It's just there's
Right.
this
Yeah.
emotional tug where it's like, oh, I feel like I failed, or there's something there, right? And I think it's important to just recognize that, okay, maybe there is a guilt there, but it's okay to like feel a little guilty. It's okay to, be clear, confident, that there's a better, more greener pastures ahead, for you. So
Right.
don't
Yeah.
try to over apologize or maybe like over explain or over
Yeah.
justify. Like sometimes the simplest
We do that when we're
explanation,
nervous. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, sometimes the simplest explanation is
Yeah.
just like the easiest, right? You don't need to get more detailed than that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the key takeaways is it can initially feel like firing a client or letting go of a client means that you failed somehow or something's gone wrong, but not everybody's for everybody. this is a
Yeah.
huge world full of billions of people. Not everybody's going to be an ideal client, and you're not going to be the ideal person for everybody. So it's okay. And it's a growth moment where you're realizing who's a better fit for me. Are there better opportunities for me? And it's okay. It's okay to let go and move on and keep growing your business.
Yeah, and, when you get rid of these people, you actually have more room to have energizing clients, clients that give you
Yeah.
energy, you wake up excited, like, try to if you feel so guilty or, like, you don't wanna let go of this because of the money or whatever that might be, like, take some time to journal about the positivities or the positives of what a good client could look like and what that could
Yes.
feel like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? You waking up in the morning and instead of going, "Oh, another meeting," you go, "Oh, man, we're working towards a project or
Sure.
purpose, for this client that, like, is super interesting," or it's, making the world a better place or whatever it might
Right.
be.
Yeah.
And that's super, super exciting and rewarding when you can get clients that are, within what you wanna do, right? Or within the values alignment, like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I just did an exercise. I think I shared it on Substack where I was, I think, using ChatGPT for this, but I fed it my ideal client. So I've worked with, hundreds of people, and some have been fantastic and ideal, and some have been, not so great. And so I picked somebody who I thought is like, wow, this is an ideal client for a lot of reasons.
Mhm.
Great to work with, paid on time, friendly, all that kind of stuff. So I said, okay, here's my ideal client. Take a look at their profile, take a look at what they post and message and what I know about them, what I can tell you about them. How do I reach more of these people? Which
Mhm.
was fantastic. And so, like you were saying, making room for the right clients. And it said, yeah, these are the kind of clients that respond to this kind of messaging and targeting and where you'll find them. Great. Now you can actually move your business to finding people who are more aligned with you and make you feel great and energized, and move away from the folks that kind of drain you. Because as we said earlier, it's like one of the biggest benefits of creating your own business, being a freelancer, an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, is you get to make the rules. You get to
Yeah.
decide who you spend time with every day, and there's no reason to be miserable. You don't have to
Yeah.
do that anymore. You
Yeah.
don't have to do that.
Yeah, we did not get into business to be miserable. Well, I mean, that's the whole point of leaving the corporate, leaving the 9 to 5 is for
Yeah,
that ability to do what we want with the time we have.
exactly. All right. Well,
Well,
yeah,
sorry my internet wasn't so good today.
I did a song and dance in between, so I think that'll make people
Hopefully
happy.
hopefully you could do a little bit of editing magic so I don't sound like a total goofball, but
I'm gonna
it's
keep
okay
you
if you don't.
frozen. I saw something where
Oh,
you just froze. I'm like, "That's what I'm gonna use. That's the keyframe for the video.
in my
That's
s
what's gonna be on YouTube."
in my prior life, I was a Parisian mime.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what it looked like. I can't wait. I can't wait. So, yeah, you can go to newsletter.invinciblesolopreneurs.com and find this episode. And as always, leave a comment, ask us a question. We're happy to engage with you.
Yeah, yeah. Excited. Well, have a good one, you guys.
Yeah. See you later, Anna.
Bye.
Until next time, I wish you the best of luck with building the business of your dreams.